And let's get started. So this session is called Top 10 Apps and Solutions for Project Online. And I guess the header is there are so many apps right now. Which one should you choose? It's obviously a subjective analysis and recommendations from myself and the experience I've had using Project Online and apps for the last 3 or 4 years. The general session will be focusing on just for a few minutes on what Projectum is when it comes to being a project partner that you can work together with and collaborate with. Then a quick intro to why at all look at apps when it comes to Office 365 and obviously Project Online. Then looking at what we could call the top 10 apps for Project Online, or at least some selected apps. There are many in that App Store, so you'll notice that as well when we get started. And as said in the intro, we'll also have a rough 15 minutes, if we're lucky, left for some general question and answering. Now, Projectum is a 14-year-old company only doing Microsoft and PPM. So we've been dedicated to this area and specialty for the entire period. And obviously, tools for Microsoft has grown over that time. So it is more than just working with Microsoft Project when it comes to PPM. It's also understanding SharePoint. It's also understanding Power BI and many other tools that serve the PPM purpose. We are currently the winner of the year 2017 globally. We also won back in 15, so we're quite proud of that title, which means that we have a proven track record and various success stories from key customer cases. In total, we are roughly 85 people working mainly in the Dutch market, the Danish market, and the Swedish and Finnish market. But we do have resellers and partners of us spread around the world, mainly in the US, Canada, and Australia. Now, if we look at what we try to achieve as a partner to your business, it's quite often to move the time spent on data quality auditing. So let's imagine you are a PMO or a portfolio management office, and you spend most of your time trying to capture data, ensuring quality is okay, making sure that financials are up to date before a specific status meeting. And all of that time leaves quite a short time left for strategic management and making sure that what we're doing is actually the right thing. So elements such as project model, updating that one, revising it, making an audit on it, making sure that reporting templates are the right ones, making sure you have enough gates, making sure that you can mentor your project managers. All of those things require time, and especially the strategic level. So how is the financial forecasting looking, and what should we do? Should we improve? Should we reduce? Should we, and so on. So all of these questions and answers. We would prefer that most of the PMOs we meet, who are quite often our customers, would spend their time mostly up here, because this is where value will be created towards the real stakeholders of what we're doing, which is in fact the C-level or upper management. We would like to come with advices on what kind of strategy they might should look at or change when it comes to our portfolio, or the opposite way around. We would also like to be able to recommend which people should be hired. Do we have enough? Do we have too many? Should we move resources around? All those kind of things, which is related to the strategic level. To make sure we don't spend too much time down here, we need a system that just works. We need happy people using the system, motivated users, so to speak. And we can do that in various ways using bots and assistants and many other new things that have arisen over the last couple of years. Some of them I'll look into also in this session. So my background is 15 years in total with Project, Microsoft Project, and portfolio management tools. I've been through the whole ride of being a member of the board of PMI to currently being member of the board of IPMA here in Denmark. I'm Prince2 certified, skilled, agile certified. I'm a Microsoft MVP, so I'm a geek as well when it comes to Microsoft technology. And I work as an advisor to Microsoft in what they call the Project Advisory Council. I have an interest in innovation and change, hence I also have a Master of Arts in that field, and I write on my blog, ppmblog.org. quite often, and yeah, you should probably go in there as well if you want to look more into the apps that I'll talk about today, because most of them would have had a review already in there. So why have apps at all when it comes to Office 365? I quite often run into administrators who have Project Online running or SharePoint, and who somehow try to protect that installation from having new apps installed or deployed. So in my subjective mindset, I believe that not having apps in your SharePoint or Office 365 environment would be the same as buying an Android or iPhone and not connecting it to the App Store. And if that's the case, I would much prefer to buy a cheaper Nokia that can be used for calling and text messaging, thereby saving you tons of money. So if you have invested in something that's connected to the cloud, by all means use that cloud, including not only your own data in the cloud, but also other best practices and apps. The other thing we should probably look into is that we should think of Office 365 apps and solutions as a shortcut to a business solution. So rather than you producing custom code, doing heavy requirement specifications for, let's say, a risk management module, probably somebody out there have already been through that ride. And maybe that partner has uploaded an app for the store that you can try out, or maybe even buy for either it's free or you get it for quite a low cost compared to doing it yourself. There's also the fact that Microsoft is actually the final approver of all apps before they are available to the users, which means essentially that not only do the vendor test the apps, you will also test the apps if you buy them or try them, but Microsoft will in between also validate that the standards are okay, the documentation is in place, and so on. And if you imagine the whole GDPR interest we have right now in the EU, obviously this will also be taken into account, so you don't have to take it into account. When it comes to updating apps that you have installed, obviously that's a click approach, because now the vendors can push updates exactly like with your iPhone, so you don't have to have that thing running in your backend. You don't have to bring in developers or consultants into your production servers. In this case, we can simply update it by the click of a button. And finally, third-party apps and solutions are often proven. What I mean by that is that when you have an app in the App Store, others also have that app, quite often at least, which means that it's not just you using it, it will be others. And I think that's also a way of sharing best practices across industries, across verticals, rather than always trying to build it themselves from scratch. If you want to know more about it, you should go to, there's a little typo here I can see, but https appsource.microsoft.com would be the place to go to find tons of various apps for Project Online, but also Office 365. So some quick stats. Today, there are roughly 20 million users of Microsoft Project. There are 15,000 organizations using Microsoft Project to some extent. And the funny thing is we have more than 1,000 apps or add-ins for Office 365 already in what we call App Source or the App Store. So this makes it difficult maybe for you to understand which ones are relevant when you have 1,000. You could then ask how many are relevant for Microsoft Project, and that's a tricky question, considering PPM is also about collaboration. And since collaboration is also SharePoint, then many of the SharePoint apps will be quite relevant for your solution as well. But if you focused only on what is Project Online specific, so without the collaboration pieces, you will probably find a rough estimate of 50 apps right now. But if you include the whole thing, collaboration and so on, you'll probably find 800-900 that are specific for collaboration in general. So the top 10 apps and solutions, I'll get back to what the difference is when it comes to an app or a solution for Project Online. Some of them are quite simple, some of them are more advanced. But these are the ones I quite often run into having to add to almost any installation, because it's the essence of what we're trying to achieve. Some might say as well, why haven't Microsoft done it themselves? Where I would say maybe that's because they have a focus on building something else, or having a better system running in the back end, or building something completely new you haven't seen. Some of these things are trivial, but that doesn't mean that a partner can't produce quality. And since the whole API is available for partners, that's also the reason for why we can build quite solid and almost seamless integrated solutions into Project Online. So let's get started with the first one. because we have quite a short time for covering quite a lot of apps. First one is what we call the custom fields editor, which is in fact a place where your custom fields that you're using in Project Online are all shown. So you can see not only what they are and at what level they're used, but also how many projects are using them. So I'll start by just switching to this one so you can see an example on it, because that's the way we'll run this presentation. So we'll go back to our, here we go, just a second. Just need to find one, there we go. So we are now in Project Online, and we're gonna go into the app backend or the site contents area, and I'm gonna find the custom fields editor. So that's our first one. So this one, let me just wait for loading, will show you all the custom fields you have in the system. In this case, my demo system. I can briefly go in and sort by different things or filter by different things. Let's start by filtering for anything that's related to a text field and only on the project level, but the level, task, resource, and projects are obviously available. Let's click on project. So now we can see that only one project, for instance, is using the field called approver. 13 are using the one called auto-publish. 20 all have what is called business purpose, and so on. So a quick mechanism to see what's being used or not would be to then sort it by clicking here. So we can see the top most used fields in the top right here, and at the bottom, fields that are not even at all used in any project. Steering group summary. Nobody has written a steering group summary. So this might be a relevant field for you as a PMO, but obviously in this case, PMs are not using it. And then this could be a good checklist to go out and further investigate why it is like that. Another great thing is that you can also export these things to Excel. I'm not going to do that right now. So you get the same view in a pivot table for you to do report and charting on. A thing that's also relevant for those that are cleaning up is that you can go in and select multiple custom fields and delete them all with one button. This is not something you can do in Project Online as a standard, so it can save you quite a lot of time, especially if you have many fields, as in this case. If I select them all, you have quite a lot. Some have up to 300. Those would be the worst cases, or let's say best cases that I've seen so far. So this would be custom fields editor. So if we go back to the presentation again, here we go. That was the first one. Now the second one, Fluent Pro Financials. This is a quite new solution that came out, I think, 2 months ago by Fluent Pro, that for some is a well-known brand in the PPM space. I'll get back to what they have been building before this financials tool. But this tool is a financial forecasting and budgeting tool that can take place on the project level, meaning outside of the project plan. So switching to our area again, there we go. And going to the front page of Project Online. Now we need to go into a project and not just stay outside of them. So if we go into the project called, in this case, Passion for Project, and open this one up. Now on one of the PDPs, we have a financial tracking page. So this case called financials. This could be called budgeting or whatever you want to call it, obviously. As this is a expert level session, I'm going to be very specific on the apps and not so much on what Project Online is in general. So now we've loaded the app, and the app is actually a web part that you can now add to your PDPs or project detail pages. We have the option here of working with different dimensions of cost. In this case, we have forecast added, but we could also have baseline, actuals, and accruals, and also side by side. We can look at the time phase periods in quarters, years, or months. That's all up to you. In this case, looking at the years, considering the project only runs from March to July, we only have 1 year to look at. We can have custom codes that you can use for specific field cost categories in your ERP system, making it easier for you to later on do an integration. We can collapse and expand and summarize. So in this case, looking at CAPEX and OPEX. And below those, if we write, I have to do an edit here. Let's just keep it like this for the time we have. Obviously, the more we write here, the more will be summarized up here all the way to the highest level. We can also, by clicking the plus button, add new categories if the user should be allowed to do it. My category. It's quite interesting for most that I've run into. So this is a simple tool that can manage tracking, budgeting, accruals, and actuals for finances. And copying from baseline to forecast, forecast to baseline, a quite normal question, is also possible. So that's a very brief intro to this tool. And again, if you want to know more about it, I'll make sure to have some slides where you can find more information about it that will be shared with you later on. So going back to the slide again, we will now switch, we can call it app, but also vendor, to the Sensei bulk edit solution. Similar to the custom fields editor, we would now like to actually manage and bulk edit the actual field values for the custom fields. So switching back here, going to the site contents area, we go down to the Sensei custom bulk edit. Here we go. Bulk edit update. Thank you. Now, again, this tool is it's quite advanced actually, because it works with several hundreds or thousands of projects at the same time, including all the fields and the values. So there is a selection, kind of like a funnel, before you end up having the place where you can do your bulk editing. So if we start here by clicking continue, we first have a place where you can filter projects out or in. So depending on which kind of projects you would like to include, so that could be the type of project or the state they're in, or depending on the owner of the project and so on, we could then manage that because it has the lookup values, and go to next as a filter. Let's just try and take them all. We click next. Now we come to the section where we have all our projects. So again, we can now go in and say we would like to add all of them, or maybe just some of them. And just deselecting a few for the fun of it. Now we go next. And now we need to find which custom fields that we would like to edit for those projects. As an example, let's take something that we all have quite often, some KPI values and some description for those KPIs. Scope, time, description, and hit next. So this took us roughly 30 seconds, 20 seconds to get to a page where we can now cross projects, including free text and lookup values and whatever you have as of custom fields, go in and correct whatever it has of information. It shows if there's already information, and it also shows if there's nothing. So the null values will also be included. So APAC launch campaign should be set to red on the KPI resources. And here's why, some text. Scope should be set to green, and again, and so on. So I think you all get the point. And once you're done with that, you then hit publish, and it will publish all the changes. Those projects that did not have an update or a change to the custom field values will be skipped as it shows here, and the rest will be published through the project queue, and that will take the time it normally takes to do a publish. So that's quickly what the Sensei bulk update is all about. So those were the first 3 ones. Now let's go to the next 3. First one is Office Exporter, then Solvent Planner Bridge, and then PPM Butler. And hopefully, maybe except the last one, the name they have is showing a little bit as what it's all about. So let's start with Office Exporter. This one is the tool that's used for exporting your data real-time into any Word or PowerPoint predefined template. This way you can produce steering group reports and other status reports in the same format into Office every single time. And the whole thing about this is that PMs, project managers, are often in need of real-time data. They just did an update on the KPIs. They have to run into a meeting. Now they need the PowerPoint template. So when they click the button, run my report, they would expect that data is 100% real-time available and added to the report. Not that a scheduled refresh job hasn't run in Excel or Power BI is not ready yet or whatever it could be. That's why we have seen a need for having an Office Exporter. When I say we, that's because Projectum built this solution. So switching again, back to our area here. Oh, that was too much, sorry. Struggling a little bit with the click around, here we go. So we just go back now to, now the project has been updated as well, so that's fine. We go back to one of our projects, portfolios. We find the project. Let's go and keep the storyline for the passion for projects. Click on this one. And as an example, we have a page here called Status Report. Because essentially the Office Exporter, it might be a web service, which it is in fact, but it's just a simple button that is available for the users. And by the way, this tabulator view, I'm going to get back to that later in my presentation. So those two up here, export to Word, export to PowerPoint, and the button right here. The button is essentially what is the Office Exporter functionality. So imagine you want to send some data to Word, and let's just go into edit mode. We are in edit mode, so that's great. On the steering group summary, you're just going to write hello all people, and maybe just pop and hit save to that. Just wait a little while we save this information, just so I can show you that data is going to be exported. Save completed successfully. And now we click on export to Word and steering group report. So this is now pulling the template that has been added to a specific folder, general Word template, and using that plus the information from the project to combine those two and build you a document. So clicking on this one opens up Word, and using the template, it will add whatever information we have added to the template. So in this case, we have the project status report, an address, today's date, the project name, my name, what are the benefits, what's the business purpose, what is the business unit, current status for key performance indicators. And if we had a budget, let's say from the financial app I showed you earlier, those could be added here as well. Quite often questions that I get here would be something like, can we also show tasks and risks and milestones? And the answer is yes to that. So this would be an example of Word. And the same thing would apply if we switch to PowerPoint and run it again. Now it's capturing the PowerPoint template. And it's not using any code. I would say any admin or PMO person would be able to learn how to build these templates in PowerPoint or Word. So now clicking on the PowerPoint document, you'll see the same thing, but maybe shown in a more user-friendly and presentation-friendly format. But the same thing applies: project name, person, key areas of interest, and the same thing for key performance indicators, maybe even financials, and so on. So you could probably imagine you could go much further with these things if you would like to. But now you have the overall idea of what it actually is all about. So that was the Office Exporter. Going to the next one, number 5, Solvent Planner Bridge. This is a very new solution that has been made available to the project client, which is trying to bridge the planner Kanban boards and tasks or phases in a Microsoft project plan. So if we just navigate away from this, and here we go. Actually, I have to go to my front page here. Just have to go out for a few seconds because I have to launch the client. So give me a second. Here we go. So the project client looks like this. And I hope all of you have seen that you now have Scrum and Kanban as an option when we do planning. That is not what this session is about. We have another webcast that has shown that previously that you can probably see and watch if you want to. But I want to show that we click on a blank project. This could also be one that comes from Project Online. And I'm going to write a task name, task A. So this task could maybe take 5 days, but maybe what is actually going on with this task is something that has been done on a Kanban board somewhere else in the business. Maybe this task is actually the whole ideation analysis phase, which is maybe managed by other people on a Kanban board that I only want to track at this level. So essentially what we can do now with the app is that we can go in, and now we're gonna find the app for the project client. It's called Solvent Planner Bridge, and add this one. We now need to connect our user account up here to our Office 365, and we wait a little while. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong button. There we go. And now this project is brand new, so it does not have any plan connected to it. So let's say this one needs a Kanban board. What is cool about this app is that it allows us to create new planner boards from within Microsoft Project, whereas the out-of-the-box experience forces you to have created the planner board already in advance. So if we click on create a new plan and we write webcast 500, create plan. Now, this plan is essentially a planner board or a Kanban board So let's just wait a few seconds. And I think this is a great feature for PMs that now don't have to shuffle back and forth between various systems. It's creating the plan, the board, but also the group for those people that have to be allowed into the Kanban board. And now it added myself as well as the owner of the Kanban board, and now it's ready. So this task right now, task ID number 1, that will be this one, has a connected Kanban board called Webcast 500. And if I click on that one, it opens up what we just created together, the planner board, which is right now empty. So if I go in and add a new bucket in progress, like this, I could start creating some tasks, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. This is why Planner is so smart. It's so super fast to work with. I'm gonna add somebody that's not here yet. I'm gonna add this person here, Ariana. And clicking on due date, I can say that this task should be done here, and it should start right here today. This is my description. That's a checklist. To make this work, you have to follow these checks, and so on and so on. I can even add attachments. Now I can leave it and pull it to in progress. And it shows some charts from within this view. Now, rather than going back and forth, we could then go back to the project client now and click on refresh. And the magic now happens that you see the tasks that have not started or that have been done. You can even connect the buckets as well. So imagine you wanted to show all the tasks that were in progress. You could write something called like in progress, which as a bucket for the phase of ideation analysis. And then you could connect this in progress. Let's just write it like this to have something to look at, in progress, to an existing plan, in this case, or again, create a new one. Up here, we could say, well, this is the sum, and this one should only be connected to, let's say, another bucket. So when it comes to subtasks and buckets, this essentially means that, let's just quickly do this, create a bucket. This means that we would like to create bucket A. So you can work with a phase like a master plan and then a bucket further down. And this bucket, if you want to track, in this case, in progress, done or not done, could then be connected to the rows that I would like to show you. The columns to do, in progress, done, and bucket A has now been added. So we can actually not only create the planner board, but we can also create the buckets and connect these to a specific level of the VBS structure, which is really smart and absolutely not available right now in the standard Agile or Kanban experience or planner integration. So now you've seen that part, and that's more or less the time we have for this specific app. But I really, really like it, and I think you should all try it. If you haven't tried it, there's a trial available for that. Good. So closing project. Here we go. And planner. And going back to our session here. Now we have to look at something called PPM Butler, which is also a new thing that Projectum, my company, has made. Now, this is where we sometimes end up discussing, is this a bot or is it an assistant or is it a chat bot? Is it AI? Is it machine learning? What is it? I just wrote an article about that a few days ago that you can read up on my blog or on LinkedIn, explaining a bit more detailedly why you should probably start with a bot, maybe even before considering going into the AI space. But I'm obviously going to show it to you live. And if we just click here back and go to our main page, we're going to need all of these browser panes. So please be all right for me tapping back and forth. Now here's the front page. Let's just do this. Down here we have something called a cysteine. This is a bot that we built that we call Butler. And as an example, this one can do a lot of things for you. But the example right now would be create a project, for instance. And this kicks off a chatting mechanism where the bot will ask you, using the configuration of Project Online, what is it you're trying to achieve? So what kind of project should you create right now? Are you trying to create? And then it looks at the EPTs that you have in your system. So I can select a project. And what should we call the project? Let's call it webcast 500 again. Enter. And while we're waiting for this, you could actually speak with it if you wanted to, using your iPhone or Android. You could also add it to Teams, where it works as well, and it also works from Katana from within Windows. So this view you have right here could work from virtually anywhere. The description you want to add for the project: this project is used for a webcast, and it should start next week. And now it's creating the project. So this is a very simple way for people that might not have access to a web browser or on the mobile or whatever to create a project, because now the project has been created. We can also create other tasks. We can, for instance, update KPI. That's a often requested thing. Which project do you want to update? Let's write passion. We had a project called something about passion. Is it this project you're trying to find? Yes, it is. So again, following the guidelines, it knows we have 3 KPIs. So let's select scope. It also knows the lookup connected to scope, which means green, yellow, red. I'm going to select red. It also knows we probably would like to add a comment if we go to red. So let's add a comment. And what is your comment? Things are out of order. And now it updates the KPI. But even better, the project has been checked out. I think that's, again, a thing we always hear about that PMs are complaining on or about. So in this case, yes, please check it in. And now it force checks in the project, but it only does that because it knows that I am me and I am the owner of the project. So even the security is managed through the bot. So with the time we have, this is what I'm going to show you, but you should know that other things like run a forecast on my project, when will it be finished, create a task, create a resource request, allocate a resource, all those kind of things are already available from within this assistant. We can add it from here. We can add it on any PDP and have it working in a different way depending on what context we're in. So this is what we call PPM Butler, which is our framework for building these apps that can understand your configuration and help your PMs have a much better experience when working in Project Online. So those were those 3. Now going to the next. On this page, sorry, here, we have Team Planner that I do hope some of you have heard about before, Sensei Portfolio Advisor, and Fluent Books. And first one, Team Planner, is a tool that is built on top of Project Online as an app, and has been made to make sure that both project managers and resource managers or line managers can have a better experience when working together around resources, so request and allocation, but also making sure that they can keep doing that work from the web without having to go into a project plan or Microsoft Project the Client. For some resource managers, just thinking about going into a project management tool is wrong when it comes to resource management. That's why they always work in spreadsheets that they control, leaving quite a frustration for the PMO when they want to understand the demand and the capacity they have for new projects. So this demo is something I normally spend hours on, but we don't have that time. So I'll be brief again, as with the other things. And there we go. I have to just switch here. So we can look at it from a project management perspective or from a resource manager perspective. Let's try first to look at it from a project manager's perspective. We go into a project. Let's keep the focus on the passion for projects. And notice we also had the webcast 500 project now created. We go to resource request. And this is now PDP where the app, the web part, has been added. It's loading now. And what essentially it does is that it's a place where you can go in. Let me just click edit here. I think that's best so we can really see it working. We just give it a few more seconds to load. There we go. And it's building a timeline for the project Passion for Projects. Notice the UI is quite modern, and we can now on the right side find which resources or roles we would like to request for this project. So this is not just saying I want to allocate a person, I'm requesting for a person. So let's imagine we would like somebody from consulting, maybe somebody from the Netherlands, you would then drag drop this person in. Now, in this case, I'm the team lead for what is called Team Alpha and thereby Danish consultants. So let's just drag that person in, or the role, sorry, and add it right here. This creates what we call an engagement, which is the standard name in Project Online, therefore also the handshake. Now, this handshake hasn't been done right now. It's just a request, but we can go in here and say, I'm going to need this person from April. So let's just move the timeline as easy as drag and drop. I will need that person full-time until August or July. So 1 FTE equals that role's capacity full-time for that period. We can look at it from an hours perspective and see the sum of the request in hours, and also per month, which is never the same because months, they vary in length. We could also drill down to weeks. We could go all the way to days. So we can do a lot. I'm going to keep it at the FTE level in months like this. That's fine, and move it to April. So now we have a request for 1 FTE in 4 months that knows something about consulting from Denmark. I can also add some comments. Please have the person speak in German as well, for instance. Those would be the skills or the competencies that goes around or with the role description. So that's it. And this is fairly easy and quickly done. Normally you have to do this through the project client. You can't do it from the web area. So this is the thing where we believe we can improve it a lot. So switching to resource managers. Just waiting for the view to load. And here we load quite a lot of data because I'm managing all projects in this case and resources with this setup, almost all resources. So this view looks the same, but it's not the same. Left side showing all the projects that are impacting my department, right side all the resources I manage and group by their function. Further down, we have some categories that we can also work with that are not resources, but still something we would like to allocate with, in this case, external people or rejected, for instance. So left side, we have a passion for project that just came in. That's why the bulb is lighting up. Clicking on it shows that there's a need for a consultant in Denmark for this consulting engagement. We can also see at which point in time the person is needed. And we can then go in and start the actual allocation, looking at who's available and who is not. Clearly, in this case, you would look at a consultant from Denmark. And as you can see, the pictures are loaded straight from the Office 365 user information, which is great. We can pin those resources we use the most. So they are in the top. We could also click on them even before we allocate them. So if we would like Andreas to work with us, we can click on him. But just before I do that, notice the 6% up here. This is showing how much I'm utilizing the resources I manage for this specific point in time. So this number will change if I adjust the point of time I'm looking at. Now we're using them 17%. So let's then imagine that we click on Andreas. We can now go down all the way to the actual person level and look at him being booked himself 100% if we only look at those 2 months. He has 0 free capacity because he's working on 3 projects. Let's go further ahead. Here he has 20% available time, and here is fully available in July. And here is the reach of the projects he's working on. Imagine he was over allocated, then it would often look something like this. He has a minus, and you need to manage that as a resource manager. Rather than going in and out of each project, here you can simply balance it out by saying you can work 0.25% here, 0.25% here, and then half your time right here. We now balance the resource, and it's notice again, it's saving, it's publishing always without you clicking any button. This is what we believe resource managers would like to do as a replacement for their resource spreadsheets. Working across multiple projects per person to balance out the work they're doing. Also being by looking at weeks and hours and so on, doing the exact same thing. We can also work with categories such as vacation and administration as well in the grid, and just using drag and drop and move these bits and pieces around so we get the full experience and the view that we need. So that was Team Planner in a very fast-paced track. And I can see that I'm a little bit behind time, so we'll be even faster now, I think. So now we'll look at Portfolio Advisor and Fluent Books. Portfolio Advisor is again a shortcut for you to better understand if your users are compliant with the governance that you have set forth, or if they are, let's say, following PMI guidelines. So going here to the front page, I think I will load it up here, Sensei Portfolio Advisor. Yeah, so same portfolio again. This app loads in the page only, and it shows you all your projects, all your resources, all your tasks, and so on, and what your compliance score is. This is all depending on how you've set up what the compliance score should calculate. So that's why we have a settings area where you can set up your compliance checks. So would we approve the task names should have a minimum of 3 words? Is that good or bad? Should task names have a maximum of 8 words? And if that has a maximum of 8 words, is it then good, bad, and so on? Do we allow resources to be assigned to a milestone task? No, we don't. But if they do it, is it then a severe problem, or is it simply just a ignore, maybe just a simple message? And we can click and change these values, and these will then impact the whole compliance score. Same thing for governance. If they are behind updating their project status date, if they forgot to publish their projects, they have risks that are not only active but also exceeded, and so on. On the projects page, we can drill down per project and look at one project at a time, customer insights, and have a quick overview on count of, let me just click on this one again, compliance here. What is wrong potentially with this customer insights project? So on the VBS level, outline level 1 should not contain detailed tasks. Task names should have a minimum of 3 words. They do not. Task type is not fixed work, and so on and so on. Resource assignments are needed for detailed tasks on these levels. We have a task that's longer than 10 days, and so on and so on. And we can real-time remove different filters or severity incidents, and leaving us only what we want to track. So this is very basically also with the ability to export to PDF what the app, the auditing app, Portfolio Advisor is all about. Now, then we come to this Fluent Books, which comes in multiple editions, actually a free version, community edition, but also a pro subscription version. Again, with the time we have, we'll be quick on what it does. So if we go to the main area and we load this application. Now, this is a solution. It's not an app. So this means it loads, in this case, an application on my laptop. And that's fine. And as you can see, there are different things we can do right here. One being, in this case, open a workspace from file, download PWA configuration, upload PWA, configuration to PWA, and so on and so on. So essentially, if you have a project online environment that you just created and configured, you might have some projects in it as well. Now you want to copy the custom fields, the stages, those kind of things, the configuration to another project online or PWA site collection you have in your tenant or your farm. It's the same thing. Then you can actually, using either also the free edition, download your configuration and upload it to another PWA. So creating some kind of test environment in an easy way, and so on. Others might like it also to move the projects or the sites and so on. The customizations on SharePoint, you could say. In that case, you would require to upgrade to the real edition of this solution, not the community edition. And then you can do much more. You can compare 2 PWAs with each other to see the delta. You can upload specific projects from one to the other. You can back up projects. You can also document how a whole workspace has been configured, workspace being the project sites. You could also document PWA, so project online, how it's configured. I have myself used this tool a lot for many migrations, but I've also especially used this configuration documentation button because every month the administrators would like to see an updated document on what do we have of custom fields and what are the UIDs and why do we have them. And this tool actually does that automatically for you. So anytime I can avoid doing documentation, I would go for that. And that's also what this tool is capable of. So quite a useful tool that's been around for years since Project Online saw the market first. So now we are getting close to the end, actually, which is perfect in terms of time. This one we just call JavaScript, or I call JavaScript. This is a bunch of JavaScript. And when you say JavaScript, you should think of it as scripts that allow the UI or the experience for the users to be better. Java scripting is somewhat of coding, but in a simple format, you could say. And we have a framework called CMF, where we have combined all the JavaScripts that Sensei Project Solutions in US and Australia have done over the years, and Projectum have done, into one framework where code is not running on each page, but something we can activate centrally, so not on the pages. That we call the CMF framework. As an example of what scripts allows you to, besides simple things such as making sure that your traffic lights are now showing red, green, yellow indicators, or project owner name is now changed to be called project manager. Related views. So going out of this one and into here, we take this page again, passing for projects. And as you can see up here, these are what we call tabulated views. Essentially, you have web part 1 added to the page, web part 2, web part 3, web part 4, web part 5. Notice also that this web part risk is showing the risks from the site, and we can even edit them straight from here. So all the elements from a project site we can have as tabs up here, allowing the PM to stay at the same place to do their work. Up here again, the header for the web part, in this case only with one custom fields, so the title will become the header for the tab, and so forth with the rest of them as well. This is just the tabulator view that I think is something you really need also to really take advantage of your often quite wide screens, rather than having all of it cramped together on the left side. Same thing applies for basic information, where we've added, like just rolling them up, basic info, details, business drivers, maybe a little risk analysis. You will have tons of them. So it's also about search, as I wrote. So if we go to portfolios, or what is called normally Project Center, this little search box is also added through the CMF module. And if we write anything up here, in this case, it could be passion, as you saw before, you'll see that it's finding only the projects that contains something with passion. In this case, this one. It's also rolling up the information. So as another example, if I write Peter, which is my own name, it will now not only show those things, it will also roll them up. So it will roll up the projects or the cost of the projects where my name is tagged as the owner. So this is actually showing the sum of work I manage, and you can see that right here because these are only showing where I'm the owner. Let's say you have something called R&D, like a tagging for your business unit. You could actually just write R&D and see the R&D portfolio. So it's not just finding a project, it's also grouping and rolling up data according to that specific search, which is really useful in many scenarios. The final thing is that you can also click on Resource Management here or Resource Center and do the exact same thing. So anything that has relation to, let's say, developer, we now found those, including the grouping as well. This is something that is a stressful situation for some when they have to find a specific resource, especially if you have, let's say, thousands or hundreds of resources. This is 10 times easier to simply write, I need Peter Kestenholz. Okay, I didn't have that guy, so I'm going to write Chalclero, which is my middle name. So I think instead of writing Peter Kestenholz, I should have written Peter Chalclero Kestenholz. And there's actually two of me, one with the .com address and one with the .dk address. But again, it's a very fast way to find specific resource. So that kind of concludes the journey, because this was our number 10 app. And we have 8 minutes left. So all in all, I have made this overview for you. We've been through Custom Fields Editor, Financials, Bulk Edit, Office Exporter, Planner Bridge, PPM Butler, Team Planner, Portfolio Advisor, Fluent Books, and JavaScripts in general. Target group for each, I've tried to add. What is the type, app, solution, or app for project client, and who made it. Now, everything that has relationship to Projectum, my company, or Sensei Project Solutions can be, or even Fluent Pro, can be bought and purchased through Projectum. And when it comes to Solvent, I believe you have to go through Solvent directly using the App Store within the project client. This will all be shared afterwards. So now it's time for us to say we have 8 minutes left. and ask if there are anyone that have specific questions. Then please let me know. I'm trying to look into it right now. I'm on the back end of where things are taking place. Q&A is open if you would prefer to write, and if somebody wants to speak, that's also okay. And it doesn't look like that there are a lot of questions right now. So I will do something instead and maybe create a quick poll and see if you would like to help me a little bit on a quick study. All right, are you using public online apps from the App Store? Okay. Yes, it's one answer, and no, it's another answer. If you're still here, please see if you can reply to this question so we can all see what the result is, and they're coming in right now. Just a second. It's 67%, so 9 responses, but 6 already have apps, and 3 do not, 4 do not, so 5 now do not. It's catching up. So close to a 50-50 split based on the few feedbacks we have right here. But I think that's a normal scenario when we go out, that we see this happening, and that sometimes it's not actually the PMOs or the users who don't want the apps, it's the administration that maybe a bit afraid of adding in third-party solutions or apps, maybe also having trouble sometimes finding what credit card to use when actually purchasing apps through an app store, and so on. But I do hope that the majority of you saw the benefits of using apps today, and that you would like to try these apps, and probably you would need a much more in-detailed demonstration of each app for a specific process you have. And in that case, by all means, reach out to us in Projectum, and we will happily set up a Skype meeting or drop by your office and give you that demonstration. Besides that, I would like to say thank you for joining and participating in this quick webcast and a little survey. Video will be recorded and made available soon. And before we really conclude, I can see that okay, somebody's writing thank you, so thank you as well for for participating. So thank you all, and I'm going to close this session now, and have a great day to all of you.